Good morning and welcome to our second annual Farmers Breakfast. And according to the calendar, we are getting close to planting season. It feels like it could be planting season soon. And again, I know there are a lot of other things that you could be doing this morning. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come out and join us. A few years ago, Dolores Crick, Julie Schrum, and Tabitha Rogers encouraged me on separate occasions to proactively engage our agriculture community. I say this often, but I only know what you tell me. And these meetings are as much for me as they are for you. And not just me, but many of my colleagues who I hear may be joining us. I see that we have County Commissioner Hoke joining us. We've got a few local elected folks here. It's really important to hear your concerns and to engage in dialogue. So there's a lot that goes into pulling off this event. So if we could, I'd like to give a huge round of applause to the auxiliary here at Eureka. They cooked your wonderful breakfast. I have to thank my staff, Holly Engel in particular. I hope she doesn't leave working for the Senate of Pennsylvania to go be an event planner, because she pulls these things together with such ease and grace, and they always are wonderful. So to Holly, to Kelly, to Kirsten, to John, who are here from our team, thank you very much. I also want to acknowledge our generous sponsors of this event. First off, we have Chris Herr. I think there he is. I saw him coming in. He is with Penag Industries. Sherry Bonowitz from Energy Transfer, along with, I saw Josh Snyder here as well from Energy Transfer, and Rob Bulware from Seneca Resources. So they are the folks who have graciously paid for your breakfast this morning. Would any of you like to offer a few words to our York County farmers?
Hey, if I could just do it for a second. I think they can hear me right. Hey, just great to be here, Sherry, Rob, Josh. We say this all the time. You know, we can disagree about agriculture and energy policy, but let's do it over a hot breakfast in a warm house. And here we are. Eureka always does a great job and a great breakfast. Want to mention, though, even though we have 253 members in the House and Senate, very few of them come from a farm. So we rely on support from folks like Senator Phillips-Hill, maybe not a farm girl, but someone who certainly understands agriculture and has been a tremendous supporter of Pennsylvania agriculture. And you're lucky to have her represent you here in York County, and we appreciate everything she does. A lot going on, and I know you're going to hear from Secretary Reddick, someone we work with and partner with all the time. And exciting day yesterday, or this week, talking about the budget and the important things that happen for agriculture. So really appreciate everything you do, Senator Phillips-Hill, and they're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's get this program started. Where did I leave off? Again, thank you to the fine folks here at Eureka for allowing us to make use of the hall, the meal, and we have a great agenda today. And of course, I want to leave plenty of time for questions. But before we kick this off, I'd like to call up our local agriculture royalty, Macy and Brookanna Rogers, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. A few months ago, I received an invitation from York College of Pennsylvania to take a tour and give them some feedback on a new program that they were starting for environmental horticulture. This is something that I just pondered. How is it that we have our kids go to Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas, out to Del Val, not that there's anything wrong, Mr. Secretary, with Del Val. It's a wonderful institution of higher education. Or up to Penn State. Why can't they get that kind of education right here in York County? Well, we now have that opportunity. And Secretary Redding joined me for the tour and discussion, and we both came away, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Secretary, but we were incredibly impressed. To the credit of your college, we have worked on a lot of great programs together that help solve local issues that are important and needed across York County. Everything from healthcare to manufacturing to entrepreneurship and incubating new businesses. And now they have launched this new program, and it's really seeking to fill a local void. A huge amount of credit goes to the folks that are here from your college, and one who you will hear from in a minute. Dr. Thomas Burns is in 8 months into his tenure as the 5th president of your college. He has hit the ground running, finding what our community's needs are, and what we need down here in Southern York County, and how the college can assist. So thank you, Dr. Burns, and to his leadership team, including Jeff Vermillion, who is also here. I am really grateful for the collaborative approach that we've always been able to have. But the person who's really behind the idea is Dr. Charles McVeen. He is the Dean of the Kinsley School of Engineering, Science, and Technology, who has a brief presentation on the new environmental horticulture program. When we took the tour and started talking about yields per acre, but Dean McVeen, the floor is yours for an update on this new program at your College of Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Senator Phillips-Hill. Thank you, Secretary Redding. Thank you, Dr. Burns. It's a real honor to be here. I really appreciate this kind of audience because you represent the people that we really want this program to reach and benefit. So let me give you a little overview of the program, and then I do hope we have time for some questions because that's where things usually get really interesting. So let me give you a little bit of the background and to tell you a little bit about how we conceived of this program in comparison to existing horticulture programs. We wanted it to be distinctive. We wanted it to build on the strengths that horticultural and agricultural education has always had in this country, but we wanted it to be different in a few ways, and primarily we wanted to give horticulture these attributes, which I hope you can read, but I'll guide you through them. We want an environmental component and a sustainability component in agriculture. We all know the problems facing agriculture, loss of soil, loss of productivity, and those sorts of things. So we have to be mindful of how the production of food and ornamental plants is affected and affects things like soil, water, climate, energy. All these things are very much a part of keeping horticulture sustainable. So we're looking at horticulture from a global perspective as well. We're trying to see how people do agriculture and horticulture in other parts of the world and to learn from that. We are, after all, interconnected in many ways. So we can talk more about that. What I want you to keep in mind is that this is a layer that overlays the traditional pillars of a good agricultural education. So we have, of course, a focus on productivity and yields, as Senator Kristin Phillips said. But we don't want to focus only on yields. We want to make sure that it's something we can sustain into the future. What we're targeting, to kind of jump to what this program is intended to do, what we're targeting as a job and career opportunities for the graduates of our program, which is a bachelor's, by the way. It's a Bachelor of Science So we're looking at a variety of different career options. Some of these up at the top are either as managers or owners of businesses. And I should tell you that another component of this program, which is different than traditional ag programs, is that there is an entrepreneurial and business core in the requirements, in the course requirements. So students don't just take, and I see a good number of students here, by the way, which is great to have you guys here. You won't take just the courses in the ag disciplines, but you'll take courses in business and entrepreneurship. And those will help you prepare to be able to establish your own business if that's the way you want to go. So greenhouse and nursery operations, urban food production, that's another key aspect of the program. We're making sure that indoor urban horticulture is a part of this program, whether it's for food or for ornamental and landscape type of applications. Then we're looking at the landscape and the turf manager types of careers, natural resources, or scientists in plant, soil, and insect types of disciplines. So this program will prepare you if you want to pursue a career at a graduate level in any of these areas. So it can either lead you into the job market with a bachelor's, or it can prepare you for graduate school if you want to go that direction. And then, of course, there's the educator component for environmental and agricultural educators. In terms of what we see as the opportunities for compensation, what are we targeting and what are we looking at as a background? What I want to particularly draw your attention to is the difference between what we see up here, which is for jobs that do not require a bachelor's, and the jobs down here, which are the ones where a bachelor's will make a difference. So these ranges are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the ranges give you a sense of what the current annual salaries are. And as you can see, they jump up substantially once you get into the jobs where a bachelor's is required and makes a difference. And so that is what that is the premium that we're placing on this program. It's not to say that you can't work without a bachelor's. I mean, after all, everybody in this room knows you can have a very productive life without a college degree, but we think there's a real added value to the bachelor's, and this is how it's reflected. You can essentially double or triple your annual income with a bachelor's degree in these areas. And then going further into the landscaping, the ornamental side of the program, because as you can see, we have the food production and we have the landscape and ornamental side. Both are represented, both are in the program. And again, the difference between those positions that do not require a bachelor's and those that do, if you can't read the figures in the back of the room, these figures for jobs without a bachelor's are ranging from $30,000 to $42,000 a year. With a bachelor's, you're looking at upwards of 43 and up to approaching 100,000 a year. So there's a pretty distinct step that a bachelor's degree in horticulture will afford you. We can go on. So how do we do this? How do we accomplish these goals? Well, we've been extremely fortunate in that the Powder Mill Foundation, which was established by Louis Appel, a very successful businessman in the York area, the Powder Mill Foundation has funded the program and has allowed us to build this wonderful new facility on our campus. So this facility gives us state-of-the-art laboratories for everything from soil science to working with insect pest management to working with plant biotechnology. So you, in this program, would be able to learn the latest about all the new techniques for developing new varieties of crops, how to manage them both in the field and in the greenhouse and indoors, or rooftop farming, for example. We have very nice state-of-the-art greenhouses now. We've been able to outfit them with the best in greenhouse controls, the sort of controls that you can now use to monitor a greenhouse from your cell phone, from wherever you may be. That's the current state of what we have available in this building. Then for the landscaping and ornamental side of the program, we, again, are very fortunate to have access to the Milbourne estate, which was Louis Appel's estate where he lived and where his wife lived until just recently. She just passed away. It's a beautifully landscaped estate. It's also managed by the Powder Mill Foundation. And so in the program, in the horticulture program, we have full access to this estate. And so this is really a living laboratory for the landscaping component of the program. We stress, just as with every other program really at your college, we stress the hands-on nature of the program. So from the very beginning, from freshman year, you will be involved in things such as doing community garden work. You see here on the left, students establishing a community garden in York City. On the right is a plant sale, an annual plant sale, where students and faculty sell the plants that they have just grown. So for example, right now, in the freshman course for horticulture, Introduction to Horticulture, students are already developing and planting new crops, new ornamental crops, new food crops like strawberries this time around, which will then be sold at that annual plant sale. So from freshman year on, you are directly involved with horticulture. You don't have to wait to be an upperclassman to start getting into the nitty-gritty of horticulture or of using those facilities. You're using those facilities and all the state-of-the-art equipment that's in those facilities from your freshman year on. This is another aspect of the program that I really wanted to make sure to have in there and to make it different than established programs, is that I wanted to have a very strong blend of the basic sciences, the conceptual foundations, the theoretical foundations, together with the applications. You know how you usually take several courses in your freshman and sophomore years to do intro biology, intro chemistry, physics, math, and typically the traditional approach in agriculture is to do all those things first and then slowly start to get into your horticulture courses. We're not doing it like that here. We're doing it all together. So you're taking some fundamental biology, chemistry, and math courses, but it's an abbreviated series, because the concept here is you can continue learning biology and chemistry and the math that you need in the context of horticultural courses. So we've blended all of that into the context, which makes it a lot more interesting and a lot more tangible, because you're applying it constantly as you go in your courses. So we have these applied courses in landscaping, fruits and vegetables, greenhouse, nursery operation, all of that sort of thing is the core of the coursework. We're also we're making sure that students develop good research skills so that you can attack a new problem. If there's anything that we have to get through to our students before they graduate, is approaches and skills for tackling new problems, because that's what you're going to face the day you graduate. Right? So you can't just rely on what you've learned in college. You have to be able to use all that to approach an entirely new situation. And that's what we do through the research side of the program. So you're constantly involved in designing projects, getting them going, measuring your responses, whether it's with plants, with diseases, with insects, with soil and fertility, whatever the project may be. And you're running projects in the greenhouses and in the field throughout the program. So that's the scientific skill set and the problem-solving skill set that I mentioned. And then finally, the program has an internship requirement, because, as I think we would all agree, we need to be very well connected to the actual industry, to the actual job market. And so working in industry as part of your program is core. So our first crop of students, actually juniors right now, are just now embarking on their internships. And that's what I have as a synopsis of the program. I would love to answer questions. I will tell the students in the room that there is good financial aid available. Your college has very good financial aid as a rule, and this program has an additional set of scholarships that are available specifically to horticulture students, again, courtesy of the Appel Foundation, the Powder Mill Foundation. I will also say to the students and to parents that you're more than welcome to come and visit whenever you like. Just contact us. You don't have to wait for an official open house. Yeah, we will give you a customized tour and visit any week of the year. Just let us know. And so, any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Is it just a 4-year degree, or will you have some 2-year degrees?
That's something we're studying right now. Right now, it's a 4-year program, but the possibility of 2-year, I think, is coming. Yeah, we don't have it just yet. I'm curious to know what people in the audience think about that. I'm glad you raised that question. So if anybody wants to comment, that would be good.
I think we have a lady here. How many students are currently enrolled?
Currently, we have across the classes, I'd say we're right about 15. It's growing. We started out with a very small group of 5 students. The freshman class that's in there now has grown to 10, and we're looking at numbers for this coming fall, something above that. But I will say, even though of course we want it to grow, we're not looking at a huge program. So this is a hallmark of actually all York College programs, is that students are not part of one big, huge freshman class in an auditorium. That'll never happen. You will have classes that, for example, rarely get above about 20, 25. In the labs, the maximum you'll ever have is 20. So you always have contact with your professor and fellow students, always. So I hope that gets at what you're interested in.
Please welcome a dear friend to every York County farmer, Secretary Russell Redding.
Senator, thank you, and good morning, everybody. It is always good to be in York County. This is an amazing county, by the way. I mean, everybody here thinks they're normal, right? It is not. It is extraordinary. And I say that as somebody who travels the state every day, and you get a chance to see, Pennsylvania and all of its dimensions, and where people are and how they make a living, and you come into this sort of South Central, you come into York County, and these soils, right? Access to market, the infrastructure, the investments that have been made, the philosophy about sort of agriculture and the accommodation to agriculture by county commissioners and representatives and senators. Listen, it's not normal. It is really an extraordinary thing, and requires, by the way, then sort of extraordinary work, right? That comes with it. How you steward this land and what you invest in and what we do at the state makes a difference, right? So just want to say thank you to the farm community, the ag community at large in York County for what you do. This is amazing. So thank you for always being so accommodating. Thanks for the stewardship and the good work. Really appreciate it. Want to say thanks to the senator. Always enjoy being with her, not just she's a nice person, but also she gets it, as Chris noted. I mean, just having this conversation about what are the needs of York County, what do my farmers need in the county, what are we doing at the state level in the Department of Agriculture. The senator is always sort of tuned into that and sensitive to it, so thank you always for your support. Even though when we get to the appropriations table, the questions can be tough, that's okay. Right? That's what it's about. It is not about the differences of, party. I have had this philosophy every day in public service. Has been, if you put the problem first and politics second, you have one problem. if you put the politics first and the problem second, you never get to the problem. Right? That has been my guide for the 30 years, and it's worked. Focus on the problem. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? And that has been a good guide for the work of the department. It's a good guide to the agricultural policy, and quite frankly, what I think people expect. Right? I haven't confronted a poultry grower with high-path AI that's ever asked me what my politics are, right? Nor have I asked them, right? Every problem comes just raw. It's a problem. So how do we approach that? I think has been part of the, approach, and I think and I hope that folks appreciate that type of approach, the work that we've done as well. I know the House and the Senate do, and to Representative Jones, thank you. Always good to be with you, and appreciate the support. I'll say it early because I know the commissioner has to take off, but we cannot do what we do in the Department of Ag without really great commissioners and folks who are worried about, the land uses here, right? What the workforce looks like, what extension, Penn State Extension looks like. A lot of that is by design to delegate it to our commissioners. So, commissioners, thank you. Always appreciate the support and reception here in York County. And just want to pick up on York College, and then we'll jump into some ag stuff. But what a gift. I mean, you realize that, right? I mean, you've got this amazing sort of asset here among the other things that we've talked about. Just think about that, right? You've got York College with its long history and legacy now sort of looking at this issue around horticulture and the environment. And as a former dean of Del Val, amazing, right? Because I think it's where that intersection of where the needs are, as the dean noted, but it's also where sort of society is, and the sensitivities to what it is sustainability looks like, what the science looks like, what the soil health is, what the pollinators and habitat issues are, is a really important part of the conversation, right? Of just sort of a functioning society. And so to have that asset in York County now, and a beautiful facility, by the way, was blown away. As a dean who struggled to find money, right, to really build resources, both faculty and physical plant. You've got them both, and they're there, and they're ready to go, right? So Dr. Burns and Dean, thank you for that investment, and certainly to the Powder Mill Foundation. It is an amazing sort of gift, and look forward to helping you to keep building that, because I think it's a great resource for the county. I appreciated the question about degrees and how you build these degree programs. Difficult to do, admittedly, but also you're asking the right questions, right? At the end of the day, we want whatever it is that's learned applied. And however you apply that, if that's somebody's desire to do it in a 2-year program or structure or 4, fine, let's do that. At Del Val, and I think I've told this story before, but it was started by a rabbi in 1896 who was the youngest rabbi in America at the time, who had all these issues in Philadelphia with the Jewish community and felt sort of unwelcome. So he moved to Bucks County, and he started this Del Val, what became Del Val University. And he described at the time what they were doing was science with practice. And every time I say it, I mean, if I say that today, it sounds like it's contemporary. He said it in 1896 about agriculture. And I think about the work that we do, it's science with practice, right? And what a beautiful sort of phrase to capture the work of what it is that we do, right? So every day I think about the work of science. We apply the science, we take the risk, we have the innovation and the creativity, and produce these amazing products that we enjoyed again this morning, right? And 4 hours from now, we'll expect to do it again. In another 4 hours, we'll do it again. How does that happen? Because we're good people? No. You take the science, right, with the practice, and you develop these great products. So that's partly what we're doing. It's what York College is trying to do. It's what we do in the Department of Ag. It's what you do in the ag community and on the farm. So thank you. Thank you for that. Also just want to say thanks to the other partners here, much like the county and the House and the Senate. This is a full partnership in so many ways. I want to say thanks to Chris Herr and Penn Ag Industries The conversations, are increasingly challenging because the issues are, right? The way they come at you are challenging. We're trying to work every day to find answers, but having good partners in Farm Bureau and Penn Ag Industries and our partners in the energy community, really important to be at the table and part of the conversation. Thank you for that. Can't get in and out of a breakfast and see a blue and gold jacket without saying thank you to Red Line and the teachers. To the teachers, raise your hand. Put them up. So say thank you. And I do this, and I deviate just slightly, but to say that the reason I'm here is because of an ag teacher in about 1977 who was willing to engage my dad in the milk house about me going to college. Right? I'm one of 11 children, number 10, so long before workforce was a thing. It was a workforce of the Redding household, I'll tell you. But I was number 10, and we had these conversations with Dad because my project in ag education at Gettysburg High School was our dairy herd, right? Love my cows, still love cows, and love the breeding program and developing genetics. But I wanted to go to college, and my dad wasn't so sure about that. Not that he wasn't supportive of education, he just knew what that meant. Right? That if I moved away for 4 years, something had to give inside that farm for that period. So my ag teacher, Mr. George Glenn, was brave enough to engage in that conversation. I can still remember the conversation, and my dad said in sort of the sign-off, it's the right thing to do. Right? So I've kept that in the back of my mind every day. It's the right thing to do. So I always feel privileged to do that. I appreciate my FFA and ag education experience and training at Gettysburg High School. And it became really important to me to then always sort of give back, right? To think about how we honor the right thing to do. So that happened because an ag teacher had amazing influence, right? Not just as a FFA advisor, but they were personal advisors for life. And I often think about those qualities, so thank you for what you do. And I'm sure each of the students, if I asked them to stand up and say what they appreciate, it would be you. So thank you for what you do to the teachers across Pennsylvania. And again, you think you're normal. I say it every day. I want every school in Pennsylvania to have what that represents. There are 159 of those. How many school districts in Pennsylvania? 500, right? So you have something here in Red Line that doesn't exist like everywhere, right? So one of those lessons that we're looking at is how do you inspire people? How do you train people? How do you even expose them to some level of what this complex world is around food and agriculture and the environment and the intersect of that? That happens inside ag education. So that is a point that I think we have to keep talking about, look at, we raise it up. We've got 8 new chapters, Chris, I think was the number that was announced at the FFA convention. At the farm show, but we have to keep building. And after being with the Commission of Agriculture in New York just earlier this week, they did something in New York I'm intrigued by and I want to explore, but they set a goal about 5 years ago to develop 100 new chapters in the state of Pennsylvania, in the state of New York. I want to look at that, right? How did you do that? I mean, how did you get the schools to adopt an ag program and then have the FFA? So, but we're happy to have what we have. It continues to grow and always inspired by the blue and gold. And at the FFA convention, just to sort of put a point to it, this was the year where 960 first-year members got their blue and gold jackets. 960, the largest single order to the National FFA Association for blue and gold jackets ever received. Came from Pennsylvania in 2024. Right, so think about that. I think it's like an amazing, so we keep building, but that's a key part, and of course, always to our friends in 4-H. My wife, Nina, who those know her, she was the 4-H. I'm the FFA. We often joke it was a mixed marriage, right? She brought the 4-H in the door, FFA, but what a beautiful match, right? Both of us appreciate the investment and again the adult leaders and extension educators and folks who commit their lives to that. Proudest moment for me with my in-laws when they were both recognized for 50 years as a 4-H educator. And both did, those things that today I think are like really cool woodworking project. He was amazing, and my mother-in-law. So anyhow, to say that that is what we celebrate here, it's what we talk about. I think we need to lift those things up. They're connected in so many ways to both the culture of the community, the philosophy of how we treat and what our vision is relative to agriculture in the community, but also at the state. But it's also where it intersects with education, right? And keeps us all sort of focused on what those future needs are. So I looked at last year's notes. We were here on March 24th last year, and I think about what has happened in the world in the course of roughly a year, right? And I'm amazed, what's happened in so many ways, both in terms of the opportunity side, but also the challenging side, right? And there's no getting away from what's happening around the world in York County and agriculture in Pennsylvania, right? If I've got a worry spot, it is what's happening in the Red Sea, right? Are you watching the evening news? Right? Look at trade, look at what's happening in terms of just flow of product around the world. 95% of the available stomachs are someplace other than the United States of America. We're in the food business, right? Things got to move. We've got great infrastructure in the state. We've got 3 ports. The only state, by the way, that can reach the Great Lakes. It can go to the Gulf of Mexico and go across the Atlantic. Only state. So I put that on the asset list, right? We spent $500 million in the last 8 years to deepen the channel in the Port of Philly, and put in new cranes and attract trade. Why? We're linked to it. Now we need to send a whole lot more stuff the other way versus just inbound, but having that capacity, when I'm with my secretaries and commissioners from around the country, you know what 3 ports is worth? When you look at some of these states that are landlocked without access to the 95% of the people, that's all a rail question or a truck question, right? We've got a port asset. So that is part of the asset list for Pennsylvania. So to point out that we're in the trade, if you look at what's happening in the global affairs, it impacts York County, it impacts Pennsylvania. So we're paying very close attention to that. We also have to keep thinking about the trade opportunities. And we've had a lot of conversations with the USDA. We hosted the chief negotiator for agriculture at the farm show this year, Doug McCaleb. Is a friend of mine. He's from Crawford County, Pennsylvania. Chief negotiator who travels with both the USTR, the U.S. Trade Representative, and the Secretary of Agriculture around the world. Right? This is the guy who goes to the table and talks about tariffs on things that we want to move. One great example, you've got some apple growers here, right? Paul, right? The issue with India, right? And what happened, we were locked out of that market. That's an 11 million bushel market for the state of Washington. And without that market, where do you think those apples go? They love us. They flow 3,000 miles to Pennsylvania's markets. What happens to local apples? Right? You don't have a market, right? So we're in this. So India is now open with still a tariff, but you think about that issue. Does it really impact us? Yeah, it does, because we had to find and still are finding homes for a lot of apples in Pennsylvania. How many folks had an apple today or will? You're going to drink some apple juice? Yeah, do it, right? Spent a lot of time talking about milk and people drinking milk. I think there's a lot of parallels to apples, right? In what's happening. And my consumption, I'll eat an apple, but I don't eat as much applesauce anymore. I don't, think about just the juices and stuff. So there are correlations here. And my point is that we're connected inside this world in really interesting ways. We've got to be thinking about, we have to keep negotiating on, and be aware of within our Department of Agriculture. That's just one of the things in the last year. Interest rates are lower than they were, food prices are down, you've got all kinds of dynamics in the marketplace. I'm just glad that I sold my soybeans in November, right? huge difference between November prices and where we are today. Watch the Chicago mercantile price today. You know, those who are corn, soybean growers, you're looking at those margins. I say every day, if there's no margin, there's no mission. Can't do it, right? You need a margin. It's like every other business. I got to reinvest in that. So you need a margin. We're hyper about that. We're thinking about how do we stay competitive, and why in this budget I'm particularly pleased to see investments in several things to the department proper, but one in particular to the state, and that is the economic development plan. We've talked about it for a long time. First time in 20 years that the state has an economic development strategy. And I'll save sort of the personal commentary around it, but having the 2-year journey of trying to attract a major dairy processor to Pennsylvania, I'm really sensitive to, like, what does that take, right? You can have all the cows, you can have all the milk. There were 7 boxes we had to check to attract that company, 7, right? And it came down to whether we had a site big enough and ready for them to move into, right? So we lost that opportunity to the state of New York, right? Why? In that case, and the senator knows this, we made a personal appeal to the Senate and then to the House to raise tax credits for this plant to come to Pennsylvania. The largest single dairy investment the state has ever made, with $120 million in tax credits, right? It was part of the EDGE tax credit. Amazing. Never thought it would happen. This was a $700 million plant to build here. And we lost it, not because of the other 6 boxes. We lost it because there wasn't a site ready to go. Right? So inside this budget is a site development plan that the state takes a pre-position in site development. So these companies, because they're thinking about how do you pick up 6 months on the processing, right, and the build side. That's inside the strategy. Agriculture, just to say, particularly proud that agriculture is in the strategy, right? Appropriately in the strategy, by the way, but the governor gets that. I mean, it wasn't like a hard sell. You cannot talk about Pennsylvania's past or future without talking about agriculture. And the land uses, the production, the processing, the access to markets, the ports, all of those things really became important. So in there, as part of the strategy, ag, along with other 4 sort of sectors, manufacturing and the life sciences, robotics, and energy are all part of that. So we're inside that plan that's inside the budget. Yeah, there's things we have to do. We have to invest in that. So that'll be one of the conversations over the next couple of months. But in addition to that, working on the permit reform, I think I mentioned that to you last year. We're making some progress on it, but it's complicated, right? The environmental permitting. It is on my list because I get an earful every time I go somewhere about what it is it takes to get a permit. And I get it, but I have a situation right now in the Lehigh Valley where 5 township supervisors are, majority are standing in the way of a major agricultural project, right? So my point is that some of this is owned by the state, some of it's by counties, and some of it's by local communities, right? Don't want to miss that point. So as we approach the permitting piece, we'll do all we can. The governor recommitted to it. I was with him yesterday at New Holland Manufacturing in New Holland, Lancaster County, talking about the economic development. So just know that that's a big issue for us. We're focused on it. It's in the budget. But there's another piece in the budget just around innovation. And I've talked about this for many years, that we have no money to put into agricultural innovation. You have to go to another department to find money to put into innovation. And I said, well, listen, do that inside of agriculture, right? Do it in the Department of Ag, so we can invest in what we see in the precision ag. And my friends in Adams County talk about these smart sprayers and the technology pieces that they need. Inside the New Holland plant, there are more software engineers than material engineers now. Right? What does it tell you? Right? That technology is embedded in everything. So again, there's a lot inside the budget. There will be active and lively debates about what to do, but just know inside of ag, we'll make a case, right? And I think we'll have support, but we're connected to as well the rest of the rest of the budget. And just back to education is the other thing I like. It's not in my budget in the department, but I think the way the education discussion is set up is to really think about how do we build this connectedness between the manufacturers and community colleges and higher ed, right? If you go into New Holland, they've got a dedicated program with the Reading Area Community College to look at the skills they need inside the plant with 1,200 people, right? It's fascinating, right? What they're doing, they put it together. So a lot going on there. And just to close it out, I mean, I could talk a lot about issue stuff, and just know that the high path AI continues to circulate, it continues to threaten us, it pops up. Reason for that, right? So just as we enjoy these 47-degree days, the birds do as well, right? They're as confused as we are. And we're at a point now where some of the birds never leave. Right? I'm talking about like wild birds. They stay around, so that's been this reservoir of the avian influenza. So we're watching that. We're a livestock state, very proud of Penn Ag and the partnership and the USDA, the work that we're doing. Biosecurity is the key to that, right? There's no single, blanket you can throw over, but biosecurity is as close as you can get. That's important. The conservation work that we're doing in the state, again, call out and shout out to the Conservation District and what we're doing here, just because of the water quality is improving. No denying, right? At the end of the day, this landscape has changed. As Paul said to me coming in, this is a greener county, it's a greener state for those cover crops that are on Pennsylvania soil. It's a very different, we've been in this conversation. Part of my work is really changing this narrative about the good work that we're doing in agriculture, right? And you cannot, say it 1,000 times, you cannot get the water quality you want without viable farms. Cannot do it. So how we manage that is really critical and to give us results of water quality. So when I look at the future, just to say, we've got more young farmers under the age of 35 than any other state in the nation. Right? More farmland preserved in Pennsylvania than any other state in the nation. Number 2, in direct market sales. It's worth a lot, right? Those consumers want that. We're in a neighborhood with 50 million people, right? Blessing, curse. But we're in the food business. People want to be entertained. They want access. They want open space. Direct markets, right? Number 1 in organic poultry. Number 1 in organic mushrooms. Number 3 in organic sales in the nation, right? We have number 2 in natural gas. Put these things together. So when people talk to me about like, what's the future look like? Yeah, I like it. I like our chances. It will never be easy, right? We're on a path of change for 200 years, but I like our chances. I like where we are. I like our access. I like how we do it. I like this infrastructure that we've built and the people doing it. That's worth a lot. So we celebrate that. We talk about it frequently. We're going to try to keep enhancing that as we work through the department and the budget process, the policy side. But I also know as soon as I stop talking, there's going to be a question, right? And it's going to be something we haven't considered or we haven't done enough on. But that's what this morning is about. Just want to say thank you to the Senator again for the work that she does and the way she does it. Very much appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Well, we have, not surprisingly, exceeded our time here today. Always have really incredible conversations with the Secretary. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us this morning. I want to thank again our gracious hosts here at Eureka, the fine folks from Penn Ag, Energy Transfer, the folks who made this meal possible this morning. Thank you again to our speakers from York College, Dean McVean, Dr. Burns, and of course, our Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Russell Redding. And most importantly, thank you to each and every one of you here today for putting food on our table, milk in our glasses, and providing us with exceptional agritourism opportunities for children of all ages. And it's almost Valentine's Day, so I think it's safe to say that we all love our farmers. So if you love a farmer and would like to take one of these home with you, perhaps it's a Valentine gift for someone special in your life, please take it home and enjoy. And I will say this, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I always love to connect with you. Don't be a stranger. We're easy to find. Our office is right up on the Susquehanna Trail in Springfield Township. Our office is open online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can always reach us. And please, don't be strangers, because this relationship helps me do my job and helps me represent you better in Harrisburg. And if you have any questions for myself or my staff, we will be around helping to tidy up this place. But again, thank you, Secretary Redding, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this winter and have a very productive spring. And thank you again for all that you do.